Good evening. Welcome to the June 5th, 2023 meeting of the Stillwater City Council. At this time, I will call this meeting to order, and I'll ask that you all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight. We're going to start off our agenda in item 3 with a launch of our new police department branding presented by Chief Jeff Watts.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and councilors. Thank you for having us this evening. We want to talk about our new police patch and uniform. As you can see, Lieutenant Lau here next to me has our current uniform, and we will be changing over to the uniform that I'm wearing effective 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So the Stillwater Police Department takes great pride in the service and commitment we provide to our community. We wanted a way to symbolize some of the important traits every officer possesses, a way to display those traits as a reminder to our community members and our personnel. The new patch provides an opportunity. We will wear some of our most important values on the sleeves of our new shirts. The shirts, as you can see, are gray as opposed to the navy that we wore before. It'll be much cooler in the summer months, and the new look goes along with our new patch. The new patch represents our values and commitment to the standards and guiding principles we utilize to serve our community. And so please enjoy this short video that shows some of our officers wearing the new shirt and patch. So as you can see, there's some brochures before you, and we'll go over that in just a minute, but we put together a patch brochure to talk a little bit about our patch, why we chose the design of the patch, and everything that's on the patch that kind of goes with it. You can see there are our previous patches. This is only the third time that we have changed patches in the history of the Stillwater Police Department. Our first patch was the one on my left from 1952 to 1979. And then we have had the current patch that Lieutenant Lau has from 1979 until today. Just to change colors, it went from brown to the navy. So our values are symbolized on this patch in the brochure that each of you have. Integrity is a huge part of law enforcement, as you all know. That's probably our number one standard that we're held to and that we hold ourselves to. But it's an adherence to moral and ethical policing principles and following those policies, laws, and the Constitution of the state of Oklahoma and the United States of America. As you'll also notice on the patch, we have excellence. Excellence is the continually strive for excellence in the service we provide to our community. We know that excellence can never be achieved. It's a goal that you always strive for because you're always growing and you're always developing yourself. Commitment is our pledge to the community and residents we serve to uphold the law without prejudice or malice, to treat our residents fairly and to never abuse the authority granted to us, and to sacrifice our safety to ensure the safety of those we serve. And our symbolism of some of the items on the patch itself, the state flag emblem on our patch features an Osage warrior shield, an olive branch, calumet, or peace pipe, and crosses lined across the shield. 7 eagle feathers decorate the shield. The shield represents defense of the state, and the crosses symbolize stars. The olive branch and calumet are emblems of peace. The 5-point star at the bottom of the patch represents justice, mercy, and wisdom. The navy blue color is indicative of stability, unity, and confidence. And the shape at the bottom of the patch, if you'll notice, it kind of looks like an open book at the very bottom of the patch. That design means we are always learning, training, growing, and improving ourselves in the police department. And then the banner across the bottom represents our pride in the great state of Oklahoma. Thank you for allowing us to make this presentation. A big thank you goes out to Dawn Jones and her team. They have worked countless hours on rebranding and helping us get our patch to where we wanted it and putting together the brochures. Designers Inc., Jeff Dillon, who's a retired police officer, helped us come up with the outlay of the patch, and we filled it all in. Lieutenant Lau and Captain Perry, they've just spent countless hours on this. It looks like a small task, but it has been 2+ years in the making to get us here today. So I'll now answer any questions you might have.
I saw white cars. White cars?
No, we bought what was on sale for a while. And so white was what they had on the lot. We did do a vote years ago, and most of the officers wanted to stay with the black cars because the transition would just take too long. Any other questions?
I would just compliment you on encapsulating all the values so well within the patch. I think it looks wonderful.
Thank you, Counselor. That was one of the things that was really important to us. Our old patch has served us very well for obviously a long time, but we wanted a patch that we could always have symbolizing our values, and every day we carry that on our sleeve as a reminder. So thank you.
And I think the whole uniform is just a clean, modern look, and I appreciate the work that went into creating this.
Thank you, Counselor.
I really value all the intention and the symbolism. I love when we go about these kind of design projects like this and we're looking at embodying the values of an organization and how it's just kind of cool that you can write the thing like the open book and all of that. It's just really neat that you were so intentional in your design and bringing in so much of.
Yeah, we want a patch that's going to serve us well into the future, hopefully for another 40+ years, and we felt like this was a good patch for that. So thank you.
Well
Vice Mayor.
done.
Well, I know you, Chief, have been one of the leaders of updating this, the look, the patch, everything. We appreciate the work that you also and your team have put in to getting this done. It's been in process for a while, I know,
yes,
and so we appreciate all the work that's been put into it. And like everyone said, really excited about the new patch and the new uniforms.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for allowing us to present this, and thank you for, over the years, of always being supportive of us to allow us to have the funding to be able to make this changeover and to go forward and serve our community in another way and just show them how much we appreciate and care for them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It will take us a couple days or weeks or so to kind of recognize you all out on the streets. I'm going to think some other town has invaded us or something with their cops. Or
We may have the same challenge internally.
All right. Well, that takes us to item 4 on the agenda, which is our consent docket. Councilors, questions, comments, or action on the consent docket?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. That will take us down to item 7, public hearings. First up, we have a public hearing. Is Beth Ann here?
No, is Code Enforcement Officer James Moore here? Nope. Well, I know the status of this and I can provide
Do you want me
an
to read
update.
the whole thing, or are we going to?
They're recommending no action. It's up to you.
I'll go ahead and read it. Item 7A is that pursuant to 11 OS Section 22-112 and 11 OS Section 22-112.4, Stewart's City Council will conduct a hearing to determine whether the secondary structure located at 601 West 10th Avenue, the secondary structure is also identified as located at 1012 South Knobloch, is dilapidated as defined in 11 OS Section 22-112C and abandoned as defined in 11 OS Section 22-112.4E. Today, here and now. At this time, the City Council would make a determination as to whether the said secondary structure is dilapidated and or abandoned as defined by the referenced statutes, and whether abatement and removal of said structure will proceed. And you're recommendation is no action?
Yes, I was copied on several emails today between outside counsel Beth Ann Childs and Code Enforcement Officer James Moore. The property owner has made significant progress, and they're recommending no action on this item or the corresponding resolution.
So do we need to pass it for a new hearing, or do we just take no action on it
Nope,
now?
just no action.
All right.
Okay, so does that suggest this issue is going away? They've made enough progress, we're not going to bring this back again because we're not postponing it?
That's my understanding.
All right.
I drove by today, and I couldn't figure out what they were talking about because the secondary structure had been fully painted, had windows, and
Good.
it was
Yeah.
not what I expected to see there.
All right. We will move on to 7B. 7B is receive public comment regarding a request for a specific use permit to allow a new communication tower at property addressed as 4220 North Perkins Road. Diana Hood?
Yes. All right. All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Diana Hood. I'm the Associate City Planner, and this request is, as stated, for a specific use permit at the property addressed as 4220 North Perkins Road. The request is to install a public safety radio communications tower. Here's an area map of the subject property. It is located on the north side of Boomer Lake. And the subject property is located it's zoned public with similar zoning to the south. And general industrial zoning is located to the east, with residential small lot single family located to the north and west. This is an aerial view of the subject property. To the north, you can see is the location of Parkview Estates. To the east is USA Rare Earth, and to the west is also another residential subdivision. I will now invite up Rob Hill to speak a little bit more about this specific tower.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Rob Hill, Emergency Management. Come before you this evening to seek your permit or your approval for a specific use permit for this communications tower. I have a team with me this evening, so as you have questions and things come up, we will introduce them as they get up to speak to you, if that's okay. Just a quick project history. In December 21, City Council approved a new public safety radio system in the form of $6.75 million. The system is part of a county-wide radio system. The new system replaces 5 independent radio systems with provisions for 2 backup sites that we will keep online. This will bring true interoperability to law enforcement, fire, emergency management, and emergency medical services as well. This has allowed us to be part of a statewide program, so that should we ever have a disaster here and we require other public safety disciplines to come to the community, we can receive them and communicate with them on this system because it is part of that statewide system. As well as when we send Wildlife Task Force, law enforcement, or anybody else to support disasters in other communities, such as Shawnee tornado, which was most recently, we would be able to communicate with those partners in the state as well. And just recently, Payne County had approved their project for $13.7 million for the county, which we will be a part of. And again, this will be crucial to our emergency responses within our county and within our city. In July of 2022, we were contacted by Altice, Suddenlink, Optimum about a tower decommissioned by the end of 2022. The tower that was brought up in question was our prime site, or our primary location where we have all of our public safety equipment currently located at the time. City management and staff met with Altice, and we received an extension through the end of May of 23. That has come and gone. We have successfully removed all of the City of Stillwater's equipment and LifeNet, but the Payne County Sheriff's Office is still there because they are having a little bit of trouble getting onto their new tower site. So with the loss of this tower, we were forced to relocate 2 Stillwater Police Department systems, Stillwater Fire System, Emergency Management System, Payne County Emergency Management, OK Fire 1, which is a common mutual aid operating channel for fire, the Payne County Sheriff's Office, Stillwater Electric Utility, and LifeNet. So in the last 6 months, we have been, in addition to working and planning for our current radio project, we have been relocating these assets on anything and everything that is standing up in town just to keep those systems afloat. We met with the property owners where the current tower was located, and the first thing we attempted was to seek a lease from the property owners. They were not interested. They wanted us to purchase the 70 acres for $5 million. We simply did not have that in the budget, and that wasn't an option, and they were not interested in any kind of a lease. They wanted to sell and sell only. So we terminated negotiations with the property owners and began to look for additional properties. Since studies had already been run on the current existing tower site, for example, propagation studies for receive and transmit, propagation from the community to the tower site and back, we tried to find a site that was close to the original. Also, FAA approval come into play, FCC approval come into play for that location. So we looked at 2 sites in North Couch. Both of those sites were in floodplain or floodway, which meant we were going to have to elevate those locations to get them out of floodplain. And then there is a very good chance that if the road surface wasn't elevated, we would be isolated from that equipment should we have a flooding event. So we looked at Couch Park in the main body. One of the things that we were afraid of was we couldn't meet code standards. We didn't have fall zones. So the 4th or 5th place that we looked, maybe even the 6th, was Hamilton Field. So where the high school stadium used to be, there's now soccer, right? So we looked at that, and we actually thought we had found a home and had begun some of the studies that we needed to complete, only to find out that this property is in the Land Water Conservation Fund. And for us to begin the process to remove this section of property would take us approximately 3 years, and at any given time, any form of government could deny it and send it back to start over again, which would just further delay. So with the LWCF, this was not an option for us. So just really quick, the image on the left is 1000 South Stallard. It is southeast of the Fairlawn Cemetery. That is the current tower site, the one that we have lost. And this will be coming down probably by the end of June, 1st of July, once Payne County Sheriff's Office can be relocated. The images on the right were the 2 lease agreements that we tried to seek from the property owners that we were unable to reach an agreement with. So we had to go back to the drawing board. We've got a $6.5 million project stacked, and we have no place to land with it. So we began a very, very extensive, intensive search internally, and we were able to locate one last piece of property because, as you all are aware, the city doesn't own good property. If it's floodway, if it's ugly, if it's not usable for anything, that's what we own, right? And we got very lucky that we found this last piece of property that was owned for public use. It's not park property, and it is one of the last remaining properties that we own. So, as you saw earlier in Diana's presentation at the beginning, Parkview Estates is to the north, and the proposed new guide tower is that white dot with the blue crosses on it. So, let's talk a little bit about this property. So this property currently is leased for hay at the moment. Through Mark White's Public Works Department, they lease it, and hay is collected off this property. As you can see, also in there is Kamioka Trail to the right, and then obviously Parkview. So when you go to this property and you look at this property, and staff has done this as well as the engineers and Motorola, when you look at this property, from where the tower is at, that is probably the most level piece of that property before it starts to taper off. To the north in the trees and to the south in the trees is all floodplain. So when we have a 100-year, a 500-year, or a 1,000-year event, those trees will flood. The area where the tower is not will not flood. So the property is level, which allows for the guy wires to be relatively the same length, so we don't have any that are very long on one side and very short on another, which causes issues with stability for the tower. The other thing is the proximity to the airport. So right now, we kind of have a tongue-in-cheek understanding with the FAA that where this tower is, it does not interfere with the approach to or the pattern around the airport, so that we can construct a tower that is this height. If we move to the west, then we have issues with flight path, we have issues with ground terrain. Now, recently, I visited with several people that live in the community, and they have asked us about the property due east. That property belongs to Oklahoma Department of Transportation. That was property that we owned before, and we traded when we built the Stillwater Energy Center. That property has grown up. It's in trees, it's in tall grass, and it belongs to another entity. So when we look at that property, we would be taking out a lease agreement that we could potentially be losing should they ever decide to develop there, build there, construct there. We might be in this same position later if they decided. We looked at other properties surrounding the energy center. We were asked about that. Those properties are already under a lease agreement for future expansion by other entities, other groups, right? So we have looked at every property that has been asked of us to determine, will it work? Here we can meet code. Here the ground is level. We own this property. We can make it so that we can have access to this property. Yes, it is south of Parkview Estates. I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause for just a second, because I've thrown a lot of information at you, and see if you have any questions of me or the team before we continue.
Thank you, Rob. Counselors, any questions at this point?
You indicated that the fall zone works in this area.
It does,
If
sir.
a tower were to fall toward the nearest home, how far away from that home will it be?
So code says 800 feet, and 800 feet just gets into the last 2 or 3 houses, right there on that corner. I don't know how to describe it to you, but close to Kamioka Trail. Mm-hmm. That's 800 feet. The tower is 420 feet to the top. But because of the concern and because of the close proximity to the houses, to industrial sub, that's to the south and east, we had Harmony, who is with Intertech, who is the design company. We worked with her and our project manager to make sure that this tower is a zero fall tower, so it will collapse upon itself and fall within 100 feet of the base of the tower. Okay. So it wouldn't be inclined to fall as a tree kind of in a timber mode. It would just kind of collapse upon itself.
Like a building imploding?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So with all that being said, we come to the public hearing side. So Diana will get up, or you can just announce as questions arise. The team that I have here with me this evening, we will introduce them as they get up and speak to answer to any questions that you might have or address any concerns that may come up, and we'll just introduce them at that time.
Before you step down, can we
Yes, sir.
clarify something that you and I talked about earlier today?
Yes, sir.
This is not a cell tower.
No, sir.
This is a radio and microwave tower. Explain the difference and why that's important.
Okay, so I actually learned this afternoon in great detail, and we actually have the professionals that can speak more in depth, but let me give you the Rob Hill understanding. This is not a 5G LTE tower. This is designed for radio waves and for microwave. The frequencies that we will be using are not new in Stillwater. They're present now with a current Oakwind site already in the community. It is going to be 700 or 800 megahertz frequencies. And we will be propagating that at somewhere between 200 and 300 watts. The microwave towers that do the communications between the other 4 towers that will be part of the Payne County site are 1,600 to 1,800, is that right? Gigahertz? 6 to 1,800 gigahertz, and they are point to point. They don't radiate out. They are very specific to a location.
Narrow beamed.
Very narrow
antenna to
beamed.
antenna.
5G LTE, they do use somewhere between the high 7s and the low 900 frequency range, but they broadcast at 1,000 watts to 5,000 watts. They radiate their towers or their antennas down to receive signal back and to send information out. They can go into more detail at what it is at the ground level, but our system at the ground level is negative decibels. Theirs is still very high at the ground level, so this is not anything compared. This is extremely, extremely low powered compared to what a cell phone tower is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What's your backup plan?
We're here. Our back's against the wall. We have no other option. We can't afford to buy property. We can't buy property. We can't afford it in Stillwater. This keeps this tower in the city limits. There was some question from some of the the homeowners in Parkview Estates asking if we could put it outside in the county, where property might be cheaper. Quite honestly, that's not good for us. We need this tower to be close proximity to town so that we have good penetration in the schools for the SROs, so that when our officers and firefighters go into sub-level structures on the OSU campus, they can communicate out. They go into a big box store like Lowe's or Walmart or someplace like that, they can communicate from the back of the store. We can't do that now. And quite honestly, if we don't get this location, if you guys should choose to vote no for this, I've got a $6.75 million project that's already 8 months behind because of all the legwork that we've had to do on the towers. I don't know what our next move is, quite honestly. We've exhausted almost every resource. I'm telling you, we've got equipment on top of water towers all over town. We've begged, borrowed, and steal. We've had to go back to Boomer Lake Station just to get Stillwater Fire's tactical channel up, just to keep Payne County Emergency Management up. And as you know, that building's in disarray, and we've got some of our most prime equipment in those locations where we're afraid that the rats are going to chew through the cables and the power cords because we can't protect it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that answer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rob. At this time, I will open the public hearing. I do have several folks signed up to speak. I'll just remind you, I'll call you up. If you can come up and introduce yourself, provide us with your address for the record. You will have 5 minutes. This is a public hearing, so you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Don't feel like you have to take all 5 minutes if you choose not to. If someone else has already given the information that you also wanted to give, feel free to tell us that you agree with that person. But otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started with our public hearing. First up, I have Doris Al-Haraki.
Mayor Joyce, for the record, I'll just state that we do have good notice for this public
Thank
hearing.
you.
Hi, yes, my name is Doris Al-Haraki. I live at 314 East Rogers Drive in Parkview Estates. I am the HOA president. I have lived in Parkview Estates for almost 40 years. My house faces directly where you walk out my front door, you're going to see that tower. I hope you'll listen to some of my talking points today that we have discussed among the homeowners. First of all, on the original public hearing, it had the incorrect location of where this tower was going to be put. So none of us attended. We thought, oh, it's going to be at like Perkins and McElroy in front of the hotel over there because the wrong location was put on this map. Actually, it was, sorry, not that map. It was the first map. It was in the wrong location. I don't have a copy of it because I tore it up and threw it in the trash. I didn't think it was any concern of mine. The second one, My concern here is that, yes, the property is listed as 4220 North Perkins Road, which is this right here. They're planning on putting a driveway, a road to get to this tower off of East Rogers Drive, right in front of my house. It will run right next to Kamioke Trail. We have a beautiful open field there that attracts all kinds of wildlife and bees, and just really helps sustain the ponds. That's going to be just terrible to watch that tower be placed there. But it'll be right next to Kamioke Trail, which we paid for to have that installed so that all of the people in Parkview could walk from there to Boomer Lake. And now we're going to be looking at this terrible tower. I'm going to get some of my other talking points. I heard him say about the FAA. That's great. We're confused why this tower is approved by the FAA when we can't even fly a drone in our neighborhood. So I don't know how they got that permission when we can't even do a drone to take a picture of our neighborhood because the FAA won't let us. Also, the mention of the strong winds, the tower falling over. Yes, I get it's 420 feet, and it's designed to break in half and fall within the parameters. What if it doesn't? What if it lands on somebody's house? What if pieces of it land on my house or the neighbor across? This is directly across the street from at least 20 houses, and then there's about 20 houses that will back up to this property. So it's a real concern with our safety there. Also, of course, there again, it does obstruct our beautiful neighborhood. Looking out our doors, we're going to see this big tower now. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else I was going to say too. We wondered too about the 100-mile-per-hour winds. Whenever he was, I don't remember where he went, but anyway, when he was talking about the winds and saying 100 miles per hour, it's designed to stand up to that wind strength. Oklahoma, we get much stronger winds than 100-mile-per-hour winds daily. So, we're thinking, okay, so 100-mile-per-hour winds, and it's going to break in half, hopefully, or not. There's just a lot of concerns that we had. Of course, we go with also the children. The safety of the children. We've got one of our little babies was just in the audience. We have one, Davis Court, which is right across the street kind of on East Rogers Drive, has 22 children that live there, just 22. We estimate there's probably 300 to 400 children just in Parkview Estates. And my concern is that they will somehow breach that area. Now, I know there's supposed to be cameras there, and that, that's supposed to be triggered if somebody's doing it, if they're trying to climb over. Well, they don't even climb over the fence at our pool anymore. They get clippers and they cut the wires on the post and just go through it or go under it. So are your cameras going to work for that? Because I haven't heard enough information to make me feel secure about this tower going up. I respect that it's a communications tower for the police department and all that, we need that. Yes, we do. I just think that it's, when you're just saying, well, this is the only piece of land we have, so this is where we're going to put it, I think is a cop-out. I don't think that you guys are understanding our property values. Our property values will be hurt by this. So, and don't say they won't, because they will. And, okay, there's my time. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Next, I have Douglas Dollar.
Douglas Dollar, 219 East Greenvale Court. Lived there almost 40 years now. Beautiful place we've been to. I don't really have much to say. I certainly understand the importance of needing this tower for the purposes for it. A lot is said better than I can say it, and my daughter's going to follow me. All I would say as I look at each one of you, wherever you live, would you want a tower like this right next to your house? would you vote for it if it was going to be right next to your house, like it is for many people out there? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Catherine Dollar.
I'm Catherine Dollar, and I'm also at 219 East Greenville Court. I'm relocated back there recently, but grew up my whole life there, almost 35 years. What a predicament to be in, because the tower, I mean, you've done so much work and so much research, and it's needed. But I have to agree with others that this is not the spot. I walk that trail almost daily, and the houses, I don't even know how they'll fit it there. I mean, if you actually walk this trail like I have, and you see where they're planning to put it, even if that tower collapses on itself, I don't see how it won't hit the houses right lining up to that trail. And one family that they wish they could be here tonight, they have 3 children, all under the ages of 8, playing right outside there, and they pass me and they pet my dog. I talked to some the college students at the gym I go to, and I was like, yeah, they're going to be putting this out there. And they're like, I thought that was protected land. Isn't that a bird sanctuary? Isn't that where, the bird sanctuary is? And isn't that where, I mean, we pass there, we ride our bikes there. That's where we pass the deer and the bees. All that's going to be disrupted. I'm like, I know. It's an important tower. I hope they can find another place for it, because I just don't see why it should be here. So all I ask is see what else we can do to help them get the tower they need, but not here where it's a danger to our property values, our health, our safety, and the wildlife there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kellen Hughes. Oh. Is she in the hallway? You want to grab her? I can. Okay. Well. All right. Connie Stouter.
Before you start my time, I have a question to ask. I heard you say 15 minutes for a public hearing?
5 minutes.
5 minutes per person,
Yes.
but what was the 15 minutes about?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, well, I thought you said you wanted to clarify something, so I didn't understand.
She said there was good notice for the hearing, so we have to provide public notice that this hearing will happen.
Okay.
And she was just clarifying that we
Now
did.
then, may I ask one other question, and it not be on my time? I didn't understand when Mr. Hill was talking about the agreement with the FAA. I just heard what I heard was we just kind of have an agreement with the FAA. So I would like to know what the agreement is with the FAA, if I may ask that.
We'll add that as your public comment. Go ahead and start your public comment, and then we'll address questions.
All right.
We'll try to address the questions.
Oh, you need my
that
name,
you
don't you? My name is Connie Stouter. I live at 318 East Rogers. I live about 4 houses down from the trailhead, from the Kamioka Trails. In the interest of full disclosure, I do live next door to Miss Al Haraki. I have several issues with this proposed 400-foot communication tower. As Doris said, there's concern over the notice. I still have concern over the notice because it is still being said that it's located on North Perkins Road, which it is not. It is not. It needs to have notice that it is going to be located on East Rogers, because East Rogers Drive is going to be the entrance to this property where the tower is proposed. So I think that it's a little disingenuous to put that the property is going to be located on or right off of North Perkins Road, when in fact it is not. It is going to be located off of East Rogers Drive. And like Doris, I threw away my notices because I thought that didn't concern me. And then when I found out it did, I was even more upset about it. I realize that over the years, the city has spent a lot of money probably on the Kamioka Trails. I don't know why it's not considered a park. It should be considered a linear park, and the surrounding area should be considered part of the park. It's a lovely walking trail. Everybody has agreed with that. Even the Planning and Zoning Committee agreed with that and indicated, one of the members indicated that, it's a shame that they're going to put something like that on that open space. Do you have to do an environmental impact study on that? And if so, I'd like to know what was done, and if not, I'd like to know why not. Because as was noted, there's a lot of wildlife that goes through there, deer. There's probably lots of critters like possums and raccoons that we might not care about, but there are. It is a lot of nature there, and I think when you disrupt it, you're going to disrupt the environment around it. That empty field that they're looking at putting it there is a very attractive field. It's open. I have seen people playing with their dogs out there, throwing frisbees, people walking down the trail. It's a beautiful location to look at. That's part of the trail. That is part of the park of the trail. And I realize the trail is not a park, but it should be considered like a park. If you saw people going down the trail, putting litter out, throwing things along the trail, polluting the trail, you'd be incensed. That's a little about the way we feel about this tower in that field. We're a little incensed that it's going to be polluting that area. I think it may be, what do they call it, an attractive nuisance or something. As Doris said, there are kids that walk up and down the trail, other people that walk up and down the trail. The attraction of going over there and seeing what it's all about will probably be pretty strong. And I guess lastly, somebody asked if this was in your neighborhood, would you want it? The people walking on the trail are going to have to look at it forever. The people living in Parkview Estates will only have to look at it for the rest of their life. And I'm not sure that that's something I really want to do. I moved here 3 years ago. Parkview was a lovely neighborhood, had the trail, the lovely empty field back there, and a very attractive place to come and live. And I think, as Doris said, it's going to have an impact on our neighborhood and an impact on our property values. And in closing, I just respectfully ask that you continue to look for a more appropriate place for this. I am assuming the city has the power of eminent domain, and finding a piece of property should not be that difficult. Thank you. And I want to say, I appreciate Mr. Hill. I met with him, and he was very kind and considerate and with all his information.
Thank you, Ms. Dowder. The only other person I have signed up is Kellen Hughes. I want to double check with her. Okay, thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up for the public hearing. Did anyone else think they signed up or was anticipating to speak? All right, at this time I will close the public hearing. We had a planning commission hearing on this. Could you let us know what the planning commission recommended?
So the Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 3-0.
Okay, thank you. Counselors, several questions I think raised in the public hearing. I don't know if maybe Rob, if you want to come back and address the ones that you heard, and then we'll bring up the ones that we would like you to address.
So first, Mayor, if I could, let me just address the fact that we didn't take any of this lightly, right? We understand that this is Stillwater property.
Audience members are having trouble hearing. You can speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. We didn't take any of this lightly. We know that this was the city of Stillwater's property, but we also know that it backed up to the neighborhood. We have worked very closely with all facets of what it would be like to construct this. We placed the tower in such a way that we wouldn't have to remove any trees, right? We placed the tower in such the way that it won't impact Kamioka Trail. The reason we have brought the tower or the road in from the north is so that we never crossed Kamioka Trail. We didn't have to clear out a bunch of trees, create a brand new road, build a new bridge, come in and be somewhat destructive in creating access. We took the path of least resistance that would not impact what they've referred to as the beauty of that site. And we are very empathetic and sympathetic to some point about what we're asking to do. I can tell you things that we have asked for: a brushed aluminum tower so that it will blend in as much as it possibly can with its surroundings. We have asked that it have a 2-light system so that during the daytime it has white strobes and of the evening it's red, so that it doesn't impact and shine into people's homes and stuff like that. As far as Mrs. Stouter's question about what I had addressed about the FAA, was we kind of had a tentative understanding that where we had asked for the tower to be, we have a tentative yes, that we're okay. As far as the studies that she asked about, yes, we will go through, SHPO, which is
The State Historic Preservation Office.
Thank you very much, and NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act. Both of those will be conducted. Both of those have already been conducted on the original tower site. We don't get to build anything without having all of those studies done and completed. When they're done and they're available, those are transparent documents. We have no problem sharing those with whomever might ask. There are a lot of hurdles for us to jump through to make sure that we are not impacting any of the environment. I honestly don't know what else we can possibly do at this point with this property to provide the radio communications that we need. I can't take the system that we have and disperse it out amongst the community, right? That's just not a fathomable way to go with this. So any additional questions come up? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to further clarify on the FAA. There was a question about why the tower is okay but drones aren't. I'm presuming that the tower is going to be on a map. It's going to be there for everybody to see when they're flying into Stillwater. It's going to be stationary, where drones aren't mapped and they could be anywhere at any moment.
Yes.
Okay.
So I know that's a short answer, but absolutely yes. The tower is a stationary object. It will be added to the map for the regional airport. It'll be identified, and it doesn't currently fall within the flight path or the pattern around the airport. And yes, the drones, they can go higher than 400 feet. They can fly in any different direction. So yes, your answer is absolutely accurate.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you speak to, there were some concerns within the community about safety and access to the property. Can you speak to how the property would be protected or fenced or restricted?
Yeah, so let's just start on the drive. So the drive will have a very modest gate, right? Our plan is to match the neighborhood. So there'll be a gate at the front of the property. It'll be paved until we get to the back of the properties, and then we will turn to a gravel rock solution that will come down to a hammerhead to the compound of where the tower will be. The fence is 8 or 10 feet tall, chain link. multiple gates that will be padlocked or chained. There will be either barbed wire or concertina wire across the top to prevent people from coming across the top, as well as each one of the guy sections. This tower will have a homeland security interest, if you will, because of what it provides to our community. So the cameras that will be on board will be cameras that will record 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, motion sensing and everything else. Should somebody come up to the property, it will notify that somebody's there, right? And we currently have that on the Suddenlink tower as well, cameras that we can see. The doors, any of the doors that are opened, will notify us that somebody is called an intrusion alarm. An intrusion alarm will go off and we'll be notified that the door has been opened. Very much like what we have on the current water towers now. If you go inside that compound and open a door or tamper with anything, the alarm goes off. So that's currently our proposed avenue.
Is it something that we have had challenges with on existing towers? Is there often issues with?
So the current tower is located at 1000 South Stallard, and there's a lot of Habitat for Humanity homes there that were built and constructed, and that neighborhood over the past several years has really grown in population. Not to the extent of Parkview Estates by any means, but there are a lot of little kids there. And to date, we have not had one issue from children. We've had issues with adults, but not with the equipment at the property, just circumventing the exterior fence of the property and walking across the property. And when we get those notices, law enforcement is sent to deal with those situations.
So the gate from the access road into the community, how often, at what frequency do we typically have to access the tower property? Is this a very commonplace, daily thing, weekly thing, monthly
Not
thing?
daily, probably weekly. Now, initially during the construct, obviously daily, multiple times per day until the tower is constructed. Then once the tower is constructed, we'll have technicians and engineers in and out as they adjust things, make settings, run diagnostics, and get us to where we're ready to go live with the system. Then when we go live, there will be a few visits per week, but in the routine, we typically send an employee out to a tower site to check them once a week. A, because we can look on the cameras and see. But B, we want to make sure that when the generator runs, that it is running on the time schedule that it's supposed to, that everything works, the transfer switch works, the equipment's good, the heat and air unit is cooling as it should, and so forth. So, we have a big investment in this, and we want to make sure those functions are working properly. Let's talk about the generator for a minute. So it does have emergency backup. So there's propane and there's a generator. We went with propane because diesel's loud. We didn't go with gas because we also saw what happened with gas and diesel during February when we had the cold snap. Our generators froze, so we went with propane. Propane's very quiet. The generator runs very quietly, so it won't be a disruption or even a noise issue to the residents at Parkview. But to answer your question, once everything is established, once everything is normal, once a week.
Can you speak to how long construction would take?
I'm going to turn that over to our project manager.
My name is
Stan.
I'm working the ground here for some time, trying to get this site built for him.
Yeah, if you could please reintroduce yourself on the mic so our folks on TV can hear you.
Hi, my name is Stan Shook. I'm with Motorola. I'm here in Oklahoma, close to you. Work a lot with the state and all of the radio systems. We've been working together for quite some time, trying to find a home for the tower and get this set up. So we have been in this project for almost a year now, which is why we're really happy that you've heard us today, and we're trying to move it forward. The actual build of the tower itself, once we have all the materials, is about 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Okay, it's not a long draw. Most of it is waiting for the equipment, right? Tower typically goes up within 3 weeks. Then we'll have a shelter on the property. That comes in on a truck and sits down, and that's, that pretty much builds the site. So 2 to 3 months is probably the best bet, or best guess. Yeah.
Okay, while you're here, let's talk about 100-mile-per-hour winds. Is this gusts sustained? How much safety factor is built in above 100 miles per hour? Give us the rundown on that.
Yeah, I might lean on my engineer for that, but it is based on a 100-mile wind with, I believe, a half-inch ice. Okay, so we put the load of the ice on the tower, and then it's up to 90 miles per hour. We know in Oklahoma that nothing will save us from a tornado. Okay, so could you build it for 200, 300 mile per hour? Probably could build it, but it would be cost prohibitive, right? So we feel that that's a normal position, right?
So again, is this a gust? Is this sustained 100 mile per hour? What does that number mean?
Yeah. Do I know? No. Oh, that's attorney or Chuck?
Amos Charles, I'm with Motorola Solutions, project engineer. As I think the way that the specs was drawn up or designed for the tower, I think it is, like Stan said, with ice. And I do believe I'll have to go back and look at the specs just to be 100% sure, but I do believe it's up to 150 miles per hour wind, and that is sustained winds, right? We get gusts all the time, typical gusts. But yes, it's up to 150 miles per hour with ice on the tower.
150?
150, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Does the code require a certain load requirement? I mean, these wind ratings are what's required by code to build a tower like this? Is that how that's set?
Well, yes, there is a code, but normally when Motorola puts up a tower, we typically go above and beyond the code, right? Because we, like I said, the way that the tower was designed is we designed the tower for additional loading, right? So when we initially put the tower up, it'd be City of Stillwater equipment, right? And then as Rob said initially, is that we also have in Payne County will be coming aboard, right? So we also add Payne County and also growth potential, right? So we design, you can max out, right? And there is certain stipulations that a tower is rated at, and I think we are under H right now as far as the tower loading. So we will meet H. Now, when that changes, those change, right? So we started at A and now we're at H. So those change over time. And then whenever new information or new equipment is put on the tower, you have to meet that particular new regulation. So yeah, we whenever Motorola do a tower, we go above and beyond what is in the code, and we spec for current load as well as growth.
Thank you.
All right, along that line, growth. So this is going to be for your communications we've talked about already. There's no likelihood of putting a cell antenna on this tower. Is that correct?
To Rob's point, this is for public safety only. And that's up to the city to decide that. That's not Motorola's. That's up to the city to decide what goes on that tower. And from what Rob has told us, this is a public safety tower only. No LTE 4G or 5G or anything like that.
That we're currently putting on the system. So I'm going to default to the city attorney, Kimberly, to explain to you a couple of things that could be in the potential, but we are not. We are building a public safety site.
Correct, but I see towers go up, and then all of a sudden there's more stuff that goes on down the road.
So right now, the city of Stillwater will have its equipment. LifeNet will be on the same tower. Payne County Emergency Management will be on the tower. The new radio system, the new microwave dishes, Payne County, because we are a partnership with them for this big master countywide system, they will have dishes on the tower that will supply their towers as well, and that's it.
Okay.
Would you like me to comment on that?
Please.
So I have talked to Rob about this a couple of times. We are considering the specific use permit for a public safety radio communications tower this evening. Can a city, across the board prohibit other facilities from making application with the city to locate on the pole? Not necessarily. But even under the federal preemption, which is the Federal Telecommunications Act, there is authority that local governments retain in managing their public right of way. So we would have to review those applications on a case-by-case basis and determine whether or not we would have substantial evidence to deny those requests. There are things that we could consider that have already been touched on this evening, such as do they interfere with our public safety communications? Do we have capacity that would impact the structural integrity of the pole? So again, just things that we would have to look at on a case-by-case basis. And it is certainly the intent that this is a public safety communications tower, and we would have to review any other applications received as we receive them.
So that would come back to modifying this special use permit then? Or a new permit, or what would it be?
It wouldn't necessarily require a modification to our specific use permit. It would just be that once the tower is built, it is there, and somebody can make application to locate on an existing telecommunications pole. And so we would receive an application in that way.
We would consider a lease agreement. We would be considering a lease agreement under that circumstance. Is that fair?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it would happen for any other pole that might be located in the city now.
Do those have to come to council?
Yes.
So if a cell provider was to come in a year and say, we want to put an antenna on that tower, they would have to make application with the city. There would be a process and a hearing eventually where we would have to give notice.
It's all set forth in the code to address requests for small cell wireless facilities and telecommunications. It goes to Planning Commission and the City Council.
Thank you.
Kimberly, while we have you talking, can you also address the address issue?
Okay. Well, I can kind of do that in conjunction with the notice and address. Okay, so certainly the specific use permit code provisions do provide for review and notice requirement. Applications are reviewed by the Planning Commission prior to being presented to the City Council. The notice requirement is 20 days prior to the public hearing before the City Council. In this particular instance, the notice went out with a public hearing date for the City Council of May 15th with an incorrect map. When it was identified, it was referred to our office for review. At that time, we published and sent out to the 300-foot buffer radius of affected property owners a corrected notice with a new public hearing date of this evening and the new map, so that we would still have proper notice before the public hearing.
What 300-foot radius of what?
The subject property, so it's a 300-foot radius excluding public rights-of-way of the exterior boundary of the subject property. The required notices are to provide the legal description of the subject property and an address if available. Also to be included is a map so that it can clearly convey the location of the subject property. In this instance, an address was provided, a complete legal description, and a map.
To anybody within 300 feet of those property lines?
Of the perimeter.
Excluding right away the exterior boundary of the legal description provided to the county assessor's office. They provide a certificate of ownership and provide a list of the property owners based on the current year's tax roll of ownership within that 300-foot described legal. They submit a certified mailing list, which the Development Services Department utilizes to mail notices and publish a notice.
So it's not based on the address on Perkins Road of 300 feet from that address. It's based on 300 feet from like that north property line and that east property line or west property line?
So the entire parcel boundary, not...
It's the whole.
And
Sorry.
Yeah, it's from the whole, all of this area, hash marked in pink,
Yeah.
is the property described in the legal description, and
Uh-huh.
that's from where the county assessor's office.
So I'm sorry to harp on it, but 300 feet from any edge of that property line is notified.
Yes.
Because the property itself is bigger than 300 feet, right?
Right,
So, I mean,
exactly.
you're not-
So that's why we specifically did it for the entire hash marked area, because if we only did it for 300 feet from where they're proposing to put the tower,
be
hardly
nobody
anybody
in.
would get an actual notice. That's why we
Okay.
did the whole property.
But we sent out notice to everybody within 300 feet of the outside property line of that.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I understand that some people in the audience don't feel like that's correct.
You gotta remember that Parkview Estates owns Greenbelt property, so everybody in Parkview Estates should have received notice because this affects our Greenbelt properties.
I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Hill, one more question.
Yes, sir.
So I've received some comments by email from citizens, as I assume the rest of the councilors have, about the power that's being radiated.
Yes, sir.
We talked about it a little bit, but let's go back and compare this to a cell phone tower, and they provided some issues of radiation and health issues with radiation from a cell phone tower. This is not a cell phone tower, but let's talk about the power radiated between the two. How are they different? I was going to ask you while you had your head one of the
Sorry, I
engineers
told him
up.
to sit down.
That's okay. That's okay. No, this is good. We need to discuss this, but the short answer is their power is so much less. If we're talking small percentages, but I'm gonna let Amos tell you in more detail.
So yeah, the power is a lot greater for cell phone as it is for AM and FM radios, right? AM radios, FM radios put out 50,000 watts of power. Cell phones, towers, I think he mentioned, it puts out about 1,000 to 115, 1.15, something like that. But we are at 200 to 300 watts radiating out of our antenna. That's going to be 400 foot at the top of the tower at 400 feet, right? By the time it gets to the housing location, right, that's going to drop down to very small wattage, picos and nanos watt size, very negative watt size, right? Is what you will see at the housing. It's just that our radios are able to hear or see that signal versus being able to feel it or hear it or whatever you think you may get. But it's just not the same as as an FM radio or AM radio or a cell phone tower, right? We can signal out and we will be around the city, right? Our area is, I think the city, if I'm not mistaken, from what I remember, is like 693 square miles. We are radiating around that city, and that's about it, right? Anything beyond that, I'm just saying specifically for this particular tower, right? If you get to the countywide system, yes, it'll be further because you have more sites placed all over the county. But just for what we are calling the Boom Lake Tower, it's just going to radiate around the city area. And our ERP, our effective radiated power out of the antenna, is going to be around 200 watts, no more than 300. And like I said, it's minuscule compared to FM radio or AM radio or cell towers.
So is this something, is there research that indicates that this can cause harm to people? I mean, I think that's the bottom line of the concerns I heard in emails.
No, to my knowledge, there is nothing that says that, RF radios of this magnitude cause, cancer or other harmful issues.
Actually, Counselor, there are arguments on both sides.
Okay.
And unfortunately, both arguments make very good arguments. And it's who you choose to believe. I will tell you that the tower that we are proposing in this location is 420 foot tall. The water tower at Tower Park is putting out more than what this site is right now. And it's on top of the water tower that looks like much like a golf ball.
And how tall is it?
I think the structure is 125 feet, and I think we have a 25-foot tall antenna on it.
So you're under 200 feet there versus 400,
Yes, sir.
400 so feet. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just had a few more.
Go ahead.
Is the property current, so it's publicly owned property, it's zoned publicly owned. Do we have any fencing or is there any restricted access to the property currently?
I think there is a fence along that ODOT piece of property that you see sectioned out right here in this image. That's in that, just to the east of that, kind of that little panhandle, if you will, to the east. I think there may be a fence there, but I don't know of any other fences other than around maybe rare earth separating that, the industrial substation that's in here, and then the factory that's sitting there.
Where's the industrial substation on that map?
It's actually covered up in the green, or in the pink, shadowing, just above National Standard.
Yeah, okay, by the panhandle.
Yes, so that is the access road that ODOT provided us to get to Airport Industrial, or, Industrial Sub. So that sub is right there, just, right there where the two intersections meet of the panhandle and the block.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if you can't see my mouse on the screen, I apologize.
So I understand this is a relatively tall tower and mitigating the aesthetic impacts of this would be very challenging. But is there anything at the ground level that might mitigate or screen the trail or the users of the trail or additional screening to the neighborhood, whether it's the access road or around the tower that might mitigate kind of the view shed effect of this?
So we have had some conversation internally, but we haven't got this far in the project because we were trying to seek the specific use permit first.
Yeah.
I assume you're referring to something like putting shrubs or a nicer looking fence or something along those lines.
Right, just some, if there's, tree screening along the, again, I understand it's a 400-foot tower, you're not going to cover that up, but from oftentimes at the human scale, you can create some modifications and mitigations with vegetation that would maybe make it less intrusive.
Nothing's off the table, but again, we just haven't got that far.
Would there be anything that would be prohibitive in terms of the efficacy of the tower or the safety of the tower, or like what's required to not be around the tower in terms of, could you potentially add vegetation, or is there a certain area that you could not add vegetation around it?
So let's think about this from a public safety point of view. We constantly have to have the current tower site that we were on mowed on a regular basis, right? Because the grass gets tall. If a grass fire were to start, then it compromises. If we put a lot of shrubs and stuff and we have a really dry season, that is all fodder for potential fire issue, right? The other thing we don't want to do is we don't want to prevent fire department from being able to get there if they need to. We don't want to, my fear would be what it looks like in a few years, right? If we put all this in and who maintains it, who takes care of it, who trims it, so forth. Again, we want to be good stewards. We want to be again empathetic to the property owners of the park and the people that walk the Kamioka Trail. But we do kind of want to keep it sterile. For example, the safety aspect with the camera views. We don't want to give people places to hide that can do nefarious activities behind those types of. So if we have it open where it can be seen from a ways, that provides us with a level of safety and protection for the equipment that's located at that site.
Okay.
I realize this may not be the prettiest, but because we need to maintain a level of security.
No, I think those are all really, it's all a part of this process, right? Understanding what
Yes,
our public safety needs are, as well as addressing the concerns of the community and what we can do if there's any wiggle room between
Yes,
those two things.
Yes, ma'am.
So.
And I think that was a great point that you ended with, was how do we balance the need for the public safety communications or the safety communication system against the concerns of this neighborhood.
Absolutely. And I promise you, every move that we do, every thought that we have, we have had the property owner's interest in those decisions, right? How does it impact them? What does it look like for them? What will it be to them? We've tried to be very diligent in what we've done and how things have been placed and what will their final view be. And that's not going to change after tonight. This is just another step in the process.
Counselors, further questions?
I have a comment. A question was asked earlier by one of the speakers about would I vote for this if it was in or near my neighborhood? And the answer to that question is I hope I would, and I think I would. I try to operate, speaking only for myself, we have to balance the needs, desires, wants, concerns of individuals and neighborhoods with the greater good of the entire community. And sometimes that means making neighborhoods unhappy. I try to operate from a concept of service above self. And we need this tower, and I believe Rob Hill when he says we're out of options. And so I'll be voting in favor of this. I think I would vote for this if it was in my neighborhood too. And you can shake your heads and say, don't believe me if you want to, but that is my nature. And Connie knows me. I bet Connie believes me. I won't put her on the spot, but they can talk later.
Anything further, counselors? Is there a recommended action on the item?
Does that have to come? Did we already do that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking us?
We did. We got Planning Commission recommended approval of this item by a vote of 3-0. I guess just for the heck of it, while we're all sitting here, I think I'd agree with Councilor Clark that I hope I would vote the same way whether it was my neighborhood or not, but at the same time, I think I'd probably be sitting here where you are if this was my neighborhood. Or at least be meeting with Rob, as many of you have, to say, can't you do something else? I don't like this. There is a cell tower relatively close to my neighborhood. I don't really like it. You know, when I get up and look out at the sunrise, there's a cell tower there. It was there before I bought the place, so it's a little different circumstance. But I do appreciate and I do agree with what Councilor Clark is saying, is that unfortunately, even if I personally probably would object the same way you all are objecting, there is that calculus that we have to do to say, you know, that's measuring the objection of myself or that neighbor against what the community as a whole needs. And I wish there was a better option, and I know Rob wishes there was a better option. I think everybody up here probably wishes there were better. I wish we could just keep it where it is. Unfortunately, that tower is not available anymore. But I hope I will vote for this if we get a motion to that effect, and I hope you all will understand that that's based on not I think you're wrong, or I think you shouldn't be complaining, or I think that you should just be fine with this, but the unfortunate fact of the matter that as a community sometimes we make decisions that disproportionately affect some of us more than others, and hopefully we spread it around, right? And all the parts of our community get to take a little bit of that burden on. And unfortunately, it's this part of the community right now that will have to take on the burden of this tower. That may, if we vote for it, and that is unfortunate, but it is an unfortunate reality of living in a community. And
not an issue that Parkview did not receive?
Well, I do, my understanding from council, that the notice was proper, and so I don't think we can't debate that right now. Anyway, further comment, councilors, or is there a motion on the item?
I move to approve the planning commission recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the planning commission's recommendation and to grant the specific use permit. Further comment, further discussion? Please vote. That item is approved with a vote of 5-0. We do certainly appreciate the input and the comment and the fact that folks have been involved in this process. Thank you all for being here. That moves us to item 7C on the agenda, which is to receive public comment regarding a request for partial closing of a water easement located at 119 East Tyler Avenue, CC-23-78. Did we have good notice on this item?
Yes, we do.
Jacqueline.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jacqueline Porter, City Planner, presenting on behalf of the Planning Department. This item presented to you is a partial closing of a water line easement in the Sticks subdivision located at 119 East Tyler. Here's an aerial map of the subject property. It is on Tyler between Lewis and Main. A little further to the west is where Boomer curves. You have Whataburger and Red Rock. All of that is over there. And then to the south is McElroy. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. All the surrounding subject properties are zoned residential. Here's a survey of the portion that they're asking. There was a house that was built encroaching in the water line easement that was platted. They are asking to close 3 feet wide and 100 feet long portion of the easement to allow for that encroachment, to ease that encroachment. It has been confirmed by operations that this does not impact their access to the water line, so they are okay with this portion being closed. Are there any questions for staff?
Counselors. My question is, how does this happen?
So this would have this happened based on I believe the builder side. This was a little bit before my time, but it's usually on the builder. We as the planning department, we make sure there's nothing built. We're required to say you can't build in the easement, but it comes down to there's multiple phases, and in the building phase of the footing, they put it in the easement.
What is the status of this house's construction? Is it fully constructed, or do they just poured the?
I believe it's closed.
It's fully built?
It's fully built.
Is there not like an inspection process at some point where we would catch this earlier?
Not for the footing from property lines. They have inspection, building inspection does their own, make sure it's the correct footing with the rods and everything, but not where it's located.
Inspectors don't survey the property.
Correct.
Understood. Okay. Counselors, any questions for staff at this point? At this time, I'll open the public hearing. I don't think I have anyone signed up to speak on this item. Anyone here to speak? Okay, I will close the public hearing. Jacqueline, was there a public?
I do have a motion for you guys.
Please, this didn't go to planning commission though, right? This just
correct, it only goes to you guys. Motion to close the portion of the water line easement as requested. The approval, there should be a motion to approve. The portion of the water line easement as requested on the property addressed as 119 East Tyler Avenue.
Thank you. Counselors?
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the recommendation. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Next up, item 8, general orders. Item 8A is the Prairie Arts Center annual report. And Rebecca Breenan is here with Megan Brazel. They're not. Yeah. They didn't leave just because you guys were coming up.
Today. I feel very well informed. about my community. I feel like I should come to these more often.
I think you should.
I'm Rebecca Breenan, and that's actually Brienen, so it was misspelled in the announcements. That does happen to some of us.
Well, we don't have proper notice of you being here, so I think you have to go.
Anyway, I'm so happy to be here tonight, not because I feel very, very well informed. We don't have any snappy videos like the police department did, so I really had video envy during that portion. In any event, I'm the director of the Prairie Arts Center. I've been a resident of Stillwater since 2013. And I'm accompanied this evening by my wonderful colleague, Megan Brossel, who's the general manager of the Prairie Arts Center, and she has been a resident of Stillwater since 2012. Just a couple things I wanted to say before we give you our highlights, and Megan has some words as well. I just wanted to say that I can't believe it's been 6 years. I don't know where the time has gone, since we have assumed management of the Prairie Arts Center on Duck Street. And I do hope that all of you have had the opportunity, hopefully recently, to come by and see how beautiful it is and how busy it is. So we're really proud of what it has become over the last 6 years. Not that we were starting from scratch. I would never say that. There's been a very strong support for the arts in this community going back to the 1970s, and we were very fortunate to be able to build on that. I'm really grateful to the city for the use and the maintenance of our beautiful building, purpose-built for the arts, which is something I think we as Stillwater residents should be very proud of. I'm grateful to OSU for staffing the center. I am not there, okay? I'm the part-time person at the center, and OSU, allows us to have these wonderful and talented women. Megan Brossel, who's right here with me, Missy Kaiser out there in the audience, Jen Johnson, who couldn't be with us this evening. I'm also grateful to OSU because they've made resources available, new equipment, renovations, among other things. But I did want to say I'm especially grateful to the people of this community, to our members, to our patrons, to our working artists, to everyone who comes into the center just to drop by and look around the art shop, buy some used art supplies, buy from our very talented artists at our artist pop-ups. The OSU faculty members, the members of the employees of the city of Stillwater, all of whom support and continue to support Prairie Arts, really making it our community, a community resource, but really our art center for the city of Stillwater. So we just wanted to give you a couple of highlights from the last year. I gave you a very large report, which I'm sure all of you read very diligently, among many other reports that you have to read. But Megan's going to take over, and now I'm going to chime in here and there to give additional information as needed.
I think I'm clicking on the right thing. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yep, there it is. Let me just make sure it's the right. We all know who we are. It's there. Okay. Nope, this is the old report.
Okay.
Okay, well. Sorry about that, folks. I did mistakenly send last year's report, and I immediately sent this year's report, but I apologize. I'll send it out to everybody, but I very rarely get to say.
We do have the new.
Yeah, oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have it in our.
Oh, in your, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So I very rarely get to say how appreciative I am of Rebecca and the work that she does to be our liaison between OSU and with our staff. So I wanted to take a moment to be able to do that. She has championed the Prairie Arts Center, and it's thriving because of her vision 6 years ago. So thank you. I come here every year and I get to give you all the fun facts that we have for the center. So this year we did 66 youth opportunities. That's up quite a bit for us. This year was a banner year for us in terms of some of our youth programming. Some of that is our art partners are soaring. We're having a lot of private lessons with our young people. We also have summer camps. We do 6 weeks of summer camps. We do fall break camps. We do all sorts of fun things for our students after School Art Academy. So we also, this year, our adult programming, we had 224 opportunities. Again, a lot of that is our art partners, one-on-one lessons, but also we are now operating pretty much 6 days a week with, or 6 classes for the week in our pottery studio too. So we are able to do that because of some of the equipment that we've been able to purchase, and we are able to have a class going along with our open studio times too as well. We used, speaking of our pottery studio, we used 6,300 pounds of clay. I would like to acknowledge the people who also, we buy our clay a lot of times, but we also have 2 gentlemen in our studio who, what we refer to as reclaim clay. And so they reprocess a lot of what we put in big buckets, and they take it and they turn it into stuff that we can still make things with. So 6,300 pounds of clay was used this year. As you all are aware, and with your blessing, we were able to host the Stillwater Arts Festival. That was a huge accomplishment for us. We were very proud of what we were able to do. With that, we were able to work with the city, with our partners, which is you all, in making that festival right out front the Prairie Arts Center, and it was really cool to see 42 artists outside, and then all the people who were coming inside. To experience what we refer to as I Made Art, which was a collaboration that we worked on with our Stillwater Public School elementary schools. We hung 2,000 pieces of artwork in the center. It was a very immersive experience. It was really cool. It was up for about 2 months. And so that was neat to see outside members and our artists coming inside and experiencing what our young people can do too as well.
And I just wanted to say that we collaborate as frequently as possible with the Stillwater Public Schools, and we also support all of those school tours that come to the OSU Museum of Art. They do their art viewing, and then they do their art making over at the Prairie Arts Center.
And then one of the big accomplishments too this year was that we were able to put up a new mural at Chris Simon Plaza, which we're very excited about. The building Sunshine, which is up through all the rain, so it seems like our work worked. And that was done by an OSU freshman, and we plan to continue and hopefully be able to include more artwork next spring as well with that program. A couple more just fun facts for you guys. I wish I had a picture to show you, but we for the Stillwater Arts Festival, our community made about 125 bowls themselves to let us sell, and we raku fired those bowls. We did 110 raku fires in 2 days, which is pretty remarkable.
Can you explain what that means? Because I saw it in the report and had no clue what raku firing was.
Raku firing, and Tim might have to tell me if I'm get it wrong, but raku firing is where we take a bowl that's been bisque fired, so it's only gone through one stage, and so it's hardened, and we put it in a kiln. And if you ask me what that temperature is, I cannot tell you. I'm so sorry, but it's very hot, and it basically turns the vessel bright red or orange. And then we put that vessel, we take it out of the kiln, and we put it into a trash can with either leaves or paper shreddings or something along those lines that will catch fire, and we cover it up so that we remove the oxygen from it. And because we put glaze on top of that pot before we did all of these things, it turns it to a metallic color. It is not food safe, but it is great for planting things, putting something or having a little dish for yourself. And it's just a really cool process that you get to experience kind of all at once, because we did the back end of making the bowl and so forth. So
I'm glad I asked. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a cool, it's
really fun.
It's
They're
really fun.
also perfect for mantle too, I know, because I bought several and they're on my mantle.
I've got to say, it's just pottery magic is what it is.
There you go.
Pottery is wonderful, and it's really our most active studio.
It is. And I will say that the Oklahoma City Arts Festival does something very similar and has been doing like that for about 30 years. So it's really great for us to be able to let people experience that here. One of the other cool facts is that we have 210 members this year and growing. We do a calendar year, so that number is always growing for us. And then we have 10 working artists using our studio space, which is really amazing because they are solely using this Prairie Arts Center to create their artwork that they're using. They don't have a designated space at home. There's lots of different reasons why they would do that.
But I should know that's not like a formal artist in residency program. They don't have a dedicated space that they have at all times. It's a shared space, so the center is still open to the community entirely.
Yes.
So, and Flood the Streets?
Oh, yes, and Flood the Streets. This year, we did 120 pieces, I believe.
You might want to explain.
Flood the Streets, we get donations from the community and from our local artists, and we go out into the streets all over Stillwater, and we distribute that artwork for people to be able to find it. So this year we did 120, and we've been doing this program for about 5 years. So we're about 600 pieces in.
So those are our fun facts. And we're happy to answer any questions should you have any.
In your report, you indicated that you were going to put some increased effort around communicating opportunities for certain classes of individuals to have free membership. I'll let you do that right now.
Right. And that's something that I would really like us to work on, that we, OSU staff and faculty and students all have free membership, but that's also a benefit for the City of Stillwater employees. Mm-hmm. So I do want us to ramp up that message and get the word out. Because again, this is a shared resource for the entire city. So
how do your membership numbers over the last year compare to the whole sort of 6-year period you all have been?
I would say that we are right on track from where we were last year about this time. We're probably about 30 more this year than we were last year. I would say that this year was the first year that I truly felt like there was a moment in 2019 where we could really feel a lot of momentum for ourselves. We had some programming that we felt very was taking root. And this is the year that I felt like we really sort of got right back to where we were in 2019.
Right. I mean, just to emphasize, the pandemic was it was a real challenge because, of course, a lot of our the people we serve and also the people who are most active in the center, it's a lot of people who have retired, and also a lot of kids. And so those two groups, being more vulnerable, just were less active at the center during that period. And we're really very, very excited to be getting back to those over 200 numbers. Mm-hmm. So
I would also say I think this is such a great example of an OSU city partnership that has been very successful. And while I am the least artistic person on the face of the earth, I love art, and I love the fact that this helps bring art to our community, and that it gives opportunities not just for kids but also adults to participate in workshops and classes. And I thought the Stillwater Arts Festival was fabulous this year. That's one of my favorite things. And I donated a great deal of money to make purchases at the Stillwater Arts Festival this year. So
I did too.
I thought it was fantastic, and even the pop-up shops you all do throughout the year. I just again think y'all have done a great job of providing those types of opportunities for the artists, and then also bringing art to the community. So thank you for that.
Well, and I would like to say that when we first started, we did something similar that the previous people had done, which was we had a consignment area for artists to sell locally. That did not necessarily work as well in terms of just the logistics of trying to do that. So those pop-ups and those things that we are doing with the Arts Festival, that is our way of making sure that we're still taking care of our artists. And I will say with those pop-ups, they get 100% of what they make versus if they were in a consignment store, consignment area, that it would be a lot less.
Right.
So.
A consignment would be 30 to 50% of the total proceeds would go back. Not to the artists, but
to the center, yeah.
to the center.
And now there's the art shop, which that money does go back into the art center.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll just echo that I think this is a fantastic, one of our best examples of OSU city collaboration. This is not this is a joint investment. OSU invests in this center as well. This is not something where we're paying the university to run this for us. This is something the university is investing resources in helping to provide these opportunities for our community. So it's a true partnership in that level that we're both providing resources to make sure this is successful. And I think that's a sometimes misunderstood, can be sometimes around the community, and I'm really thankful that we're able to continue to provide these kinds of services in this collaborative and cooperative environment, because I'm not sure we could do it otherwise, and that's it's really valuable. So thank you for the work you're doing.
All right. Thank you. Any?
Thanks again.
Thank you all for being here. That takes us to item 9 on the agenda. Resolutions 9A, CC-2023-7 would be the resolution related to the dilapidated structure that we skipped earlier, so we'll skip the resolution on that as well. And we'll jump to 9B, Resolution CC-2023-16. This is a resolution of the Stillwater City Council prohibiting the flying of unmanned aircraft systems during certain public events on July 4th, 2023. This is our annual resolution to prohibit folks from flying drones over our 4th of July celebration at Boomer Blast. Councilors, questions, comments, or a motion on the resolution?
Yeah, I have a comment. I've been communicating with the city attorney today because this is locking in on July 4th, and it wouldn't be unprecedented for there to be a delay because of weather or some other reason. And Kimberly has drafted a proposed amendment that I would like to introduce as part of the motion.
Yes, to address Councilor Clark's concern, we could add an amendment to the last sentence of the resolution. So it would read, now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to ordinance number 3351 codified at section 16-110 of the Stillwater City Code, the flying of UAS over the area identified in attachment A hereto is hereby prohibited on July 4th, 2023 between the hours of 4 p.m. and 12 a.m., provided, however, that should the Boomer Blast event be rescheduled to a different date due to weather or otherwise, then said prohibition shall apply on that date.
I think that's a great amendment. Good catch, Councilor Clark. Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I would like to move that we approve Resolution CC 2023-16 as amended.
Second.
We have a motion.
2370.
2023-16. Isn't that what I said?
Got it.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution with the amendments read by the city attorney. Please vote. It's approved with a vote of 5-0. Item 9C is Resolution CC-2023-17, a resolution regarding commitment of leverage for the Oklahoma Department of Commerce Community Development Block Grant 2023 Small Cities Program and approving the associated budget amendments. Shelley Krines.
Good evening, Councilor. Shelley Krines, Grants Manager. On April 3rd, 2023, Council held the public hearing regarding the 2023 Community Development Block Grant application. We took citizen input and project suggestions. At the end of the hearing, Council selected the new fire suppression system project for the Stillwater Public Library for the FY23 CDBG Small Cities application. Fraser Fire LLC has prepared a certified project cost estimate, which is necessary for the application. prepared that for us, and the amount is $445,000. Staff is recommending that we accept the final grant allocation of $222,500 from the U.S. Housing and Urban Development through the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, and then approve the budget amendment, which would be a 1-to-1 match allocation of funds of $222,500 from the city from the grant match contingency in the general fund. Does anyone have any questions?
Counselors? Any action on the item?
Okay, we have a motion to accept the final grant allocation, approve the budget amendment appropriating the $222,500 in matching funds from the grant match contingency in the general fund, and authorize the mayor and staff to sign appropriate grant application documents.
Thank you, Shelley. Counselors?
Are we adopting a resolution?
Yes, this would be, yeah, well,
So
I guess
we're not accepting staff recommendation.
I guess the staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution, which calls for all that. Yes.
Sorry. No, sorry. I'm with you. Motion to adopt resolution CC-2023-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the resolution is adopted. Item 10 is ordinances on first read. Ordinance 3523, an ordinance closing a portion of the 16-foot water easement of Lot 3, Block 2, The Sticks, in addition to the city of Stillwater, Payne County, Oklahoma, near property addressed as 1990 East Tyler Avenue. This is from earlier this evening. Councilors.
Mayor Joyce,
Yes.
I'd like to request that we pass this to the meeting on the 12th so that I can correct the item.
Thank you. We can pass that. We'll wait to hear that next week. Item 11, reports from the officers and boards. Ms. Carnley.
Request for an executive session pursuant to 25 OS Section 307B2 to discuss labor negotiations with Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 102. Request for an executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B2 to discuss labor negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters Local Number 2095. And request for an executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B4 involving confidential communication between the city council and city attorney concerning Groshong versus City of Stillwater, Payne County District Court Case Number CJ-2020-455. It is the opinion of the city attorney that disclosure of this matter will seriously impair the ability of the city council to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest.
Thank you, Kimberly. Mr. Moore.
Yes, Mayor.
In your first interim city manager appearance here at the Horseshoe.
Okay,
What
I'm ready.
announcements do you have for us?
All right, if you've had difficulty making utility or rent payments as a result of COVID-19, the City of Stillwater may be able to help. These are federal grant funds designated to assist our residents who have experienced financial challenges as a result of COVID-19. As with all funding, there is a shelf life and we must utilize these funds before the end of August 2023. So just a couple more months. For more information, go online to stillwater.org/COVID help or call 405-742-8220.
Thank you, Brady. Your microphone works well.
Coming in hot. Coming in hot at the first meeting. I was like, it was loud.
Hey, got to be heard.
That's good. We have more problems with the microphones not being used well enough. Vice Mayor.
Yes, save the date and celebrate Independence Day with Stillwater's Boomer Blast. I feel like I have to talk loud now, Brady. With Stillwater's Boomer Blast fireworks show on Tuesday, July 4th at Boomer Lake Park. Enjoy area vendors and food trucks and before the fireworks show begins at 9:30 p.m. Vehicles are not allowed inside Boomer Lake Park during the event, but free parking will be available at Stillwater High School Stadium and Cimarron Plaza. The city will continue to share event details on social media and online at stillwater.org/boomerblast.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Councilor Hawkins.
I have a teacher voice, so I can talk about too. Stillwater Community United will be celebrating Juneteenth at Southern Woods Park this Saturday, June 17th from 11 a.m. Next Saturday, June 17th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. All community members are invited to gather for games, music, free food and drinks, and entertainment for the whole family. City Hall will be closed in observance of Juneteenth on Monday, June 19th. Trash and recycling will be collected as usual, but not yard waste.
Thank you so much. Councilor Clark.
As the temperatures get warmer, we encourage our residents to utilize our parks and water play areas. We have 2 free splash pads, one at Boomer Lake Park and the other at Southern Woods Park. Both are open daily from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. We also have a public swimming pool located in Couch Park that features 6 50-meter lanes, 2 slides, a separate gated wading pool for younger children, and a shaded seating area. The pool is closed on Sundays and Mondays for maintenance. Please remember when using our parks and play areas to take all of your personal items home with you, use the trash cans located in the parks, and help keep our community spaces beautiful for everyone.
Excellent reminder. Thank you. Councilor Harden.
Let's try that again. Save the dates, June 16 and 17, for Stillwater's first Dancing Turtle interactive celebration of the arts at the Stillwater Community Center and in the downtown area. This event is a gathering that immerses guests in the arts, provides learning and performance opportunities for artists, and provides all residents and patrons with entertainment, performing arts, visual arts, multiple vendors, variety of music performers, and much more. It's not here, but most of that is free of charge. For more information about the event, please follow Dancing Turtle on Facebook or go to the website at sccfoundation.org/dancingturtle.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to that too. I will let you all know that Waste and Recycling Workers Week will be June 17th through the 23rd. This week-long celebration recognizes the hard work and dedication shown by the men and women of the waste and recycling industry. And as we just heard, our waste and recycling are still collected on holidays. They're out there on Christmas morning if it falls on your trash day. Folks in our waste department are extremely dedicated. This year's theme for the week is We Are Professionals. Their jobs require technical experience, certifications, and licensing that many people do not expect for a profession in solid waste. We greatly appreciate our waste and recycling workers who provide a necessary service for the health and safety of our community. Take a minute to tell them thank you when you see them. All right, at this time, I will move that we recess the city council meeting prior to item 12 on the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to recess city council. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater City Council will now be in recess. And at this time, I will call to order the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting for June 5th, 2023. On this agenda, we have a consent docket. Is there question, comment, or action on the consent docket?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. Any reports from the officers of the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the SUA. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater Utilities Authority is now adjourned. And at this time, I will reconvene the Stillwater City Council meeting. We are at item 12 on the agenda. Is there a motion to enter an executive session for the reasons requested by the city attorney?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please vote.
I'm sorry.
I'm moving fast.
Okay.
Yep. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater City Council will now enter an executive session. There we are. All right, I think we're back. Councilors, is there a motion to reconvene in regular session?
Motion. Go ahead. Motion to reconvene.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reconvene Stillwater City Council in regular session. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, we're back in regular session. On the first item from executive session,
Possible action regarding labor negotiations with Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 102. Is there a motion?
Motion to authorize staff to proceed with FOP negotiations as discussed.
Are we on, I'm sorry, that was the FOP one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. We have a motion to proceed as discussed.
Second.
And a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that's approved. On the second item.
Possible action regarding labor negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 2095. Is there a motion?
I move to authorize staff to proceed with finalizing the fiscal year 24 collective bargaining agreement based on the negotiated terms.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. And on the third item of executive session?
Possible action regarding pending litigation concerning Sandra Groshong versus City of Stillwater, Payne County District Court Case Number CJ 2020-455. Is there a motion?
Motion to authorize the city attorney to proceed as directed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. There's nothing further discussed in executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the city council. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater City Council is now adjourned, and that concludes our meetings for this evening.